Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So this video is basically an undercard preview for Oleksandr Usyk versus Anthony Joshua 2. Of course, this card goes down on the 20th of August, takes place in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and in the UK this should be on Sky Box Office, and in the USA it should be on DAZN. Now, as for the main event, I am looking forward to it. I would say I am leaning towards Oleksandr Usyk, but I will do a detailed prediction video a bit nearer the time. But this video is not really about the main event, but I am looking forward to it. Let's talk about this undercard. This undercard has only just been announced in the last sort of 24 hours or so. And when I first set my eyes upon it, it was kind of underwhelming, to say the least. Before we get into it though, can I just say, I fucking hate BoxRec's new layout. I mean, what were they thinking? It looks absolutely awful. I don't like it at all. But there you go, I digress. We shall start with Callum Smith versus Matteo Bordelli. Now this fight takes place at light heavyweight, and it is a WBC eliminator. I believe it's a final eliminator somehow. I mean, how Callum Smith has that shot, I don't really know. And even the same goes for Bordelli, who is a European level fighter at light heavyweight. Underwhelming fight, I would say. It's an underwhelming fight. It's one of those fights in which Callum Smith, he should win this fight if he's got any real ambition of competing at 175. Bordelli isn't a bad fighter, but he's not world class. He's a relatively tricky southpaw, not a big puncher. One of those guys who does the basics well, but doesn't really excel in any one area. You know, I think Callum Smith will just be a bit too big, a bit too strong, and I think he's just better all around. Quite frankly, a harder puncher as well. I don't believe Bordelli can keep Callum Smith off of him for 12 rounds. Maybe he can make him look bad early on, be a bit awkward, that sort of thing. But I don't really see Bordelli having any real tools to trouble Callum Smith. Not from what I've seen anyway. I'm not saying he's a bad fighter, Bordelli, but he's a solid Euro level guy. Nothing more, nothing less. I mean, his best win is Igor Mikhalkin. So yeah, this fight, I mean, this Callum Smith-Bordelli fight, it's basically filler. You know, Callum Smith's a relatively big name, but it's not really an interesting fight. And you know, to be honest, I've never really been the biggest fan of Callum Smith. To me, he's just one of those fighters who has just existed, basically, you know. I can't really recall ever getting excited about a Callum Smith fight. Maybe the George Groves fight. But apart from that fight, he's not really a guy I check out for, you know. I don't really find his style all that engaging. I find him quite robotic, quite basic, you know. I've not really seen the improvements in his game in recent years. Callum Smith is one of those guys who really just doesn't appeal to me as a fighter, you know. But who knows? Maybe this fight's better than I'm giving it credit for. Maybe Bordelli can show a step up in quality and exceed my expectations, but we shall see. That is what it, you know, it is what it is, that fight. Hergovich versus Zhang at heavyweight. Now this fight is an IBF eliminator. Of course, I have to give credit to Zhang for taking this fight and showing balls, because a lot of guys have ducked Hergovich in those IBF rankings, including Charles Martin, Luis Ortiz, Michael Hunter. A lot of guys have turned this fight down. They see Hergovich as high risk, low reward. So credit to Zhang for taking it, but quite frankly, I only see this fight going one way, and that is Hergovich by savage, brutal knockout. Zhang's a southpaw. He does have a good amateur pedigree, but he's getting on 40 now. He's as slow as molasses. Defensively, very, very poor in my opinion. Straight up and down, upright. I believe Hergovich is more dynamic. He's fresher, he's stronger, he's faster, more durable. Yeah, Hergovich has talent. Hergovich has ability, you know. I see him giving a lot of guys trouble, but, you know, Zhang Zhang basically is what he is. He's a big lumbering guy who's slow but carries power. He can beat some low-level fringe contenders, maybe, Zhang Zhang, but anybody of any consequence in the heavyweight division will beat Zhang Zhang, you know? I think we saw that in the Jerry Forrest fight. If you're anybody of any consequence, you should be beating Jerry Forrest quite comfortably, you know? If you have ambitions to fight for heavyweight titles, etc., you have to be taking care of Jerry Forrest, and Zhang Zhang went life and death with him. I know it's not a triangle, you know, triangle theories don't work in that, but I just don't rate Zhang Zhang. He's fun, he's exciting, I'll give him that. I like watching him fight in that regard, but in regards to skill, ability, you know, athleticism, I don't think Zhang Zhang has it, quite frankly. He'll throw down, he'll try his best, but I see him getting knocked out in this fight. Zhang Zhang's only real chance for me is if Hergovich is ill-prepared and Zhang Zhang catches him cold early on, you know? Because one thing about Hergovich, in his last couple of fights, I don't think he's been in optimum physical condition. A little bit of flab, you know, a little bit soft. So he needs to come in this fight in shape. But regardless, I think Hergovich has way too much. But this fight could be exciting. It could be exciting, to be fair. Weird fight right here on the undercard. Badou Jack, former super middleweight and light heavyweight champion. He's at cruiserweight now. He's fighting the unbeaten Richard Rivera, who is based out of America, I believe. Yeah, so Richard Rivera, 21-0 record, unbeaten. Actually been campaigning at light heavyweight, but he's moving up to cruiserweight for this fight. When you look at his resume, I mean, he's fought absolutely nobody. I know that doesn't always mean anything, you know. Sometimes you can have like diamonds in the rough, and when these guys get these opportunities, they show out. But you know, usually when you hear of those sort of guys, there's some sort of buzz in the hardcore boxing community. And this guy has no buzz. I've not seen anybody in forums like talk about this guy as like some underrated, unheralded prospect. So you'd imagine Badou Jack takes care of Richard Rivera quite comfortably. But again, it just strikes me as a filler fight, a random fight. I like Badou Jack, so I'll watch it. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really expecting too much, quite frankly. Weird fight right here. Now, this fight is showing at heavyweight. Andrew Tabiti versus Tyrone Spong. Now, I was talking with G-Man last night, and when we was talking about this undercard, first thing I said, this to me sounds like a Triller main event. It's just a random fight. Tabiti, of course, was a former cruiserweight, fought Dorticos in the second World Boxing Super Series, and he got starched in that fight. That's really been his claim to fame so far. He's a decent lower level cruiserweight, I'd say mid-tier cruiserweight, Tabiti, but never elite at that weight class. And now he's going to heavyweight to fight Tyrone Spong. Now, Tyrone Spong, very good kickboxer, but as a boxer, I've seen a few highlights of Tyrone Spong, and to me he looks pretty dreadful, quite frankly. I mean, he's not fought since 2019, August 2019, so 3 years going into this fight, he wouldn't have fought. That's a long layoff, you know. Again, the best guy he fought was Yutalo Pereira, and he went a split decision in that fight, and that's the same Pereira who Bordelli knocked out in a couple of rounds. So that gives you a brief idea where Tyrone Spong's level kind of lies in the heavyweight division. But it's a weird fight. It's so weird, it's almost intriguing. That's how I would describe it. I'll watch this. I will watch this one with some intrigue. But if you're asking me who I think's going to win this one, I know he's a smaller guy, but I'm actually going with Andrew Tabiti. I think he's more skilled. He's a natural boxer. So yeah, I've got Tabiti to win this fight. I wonder what the odds are for it. I'll have a look nearer the time. You might get some good odds on this fight, maybe. But apart from that, there's nothing really to look out for. You got Ramla Ali returning. I'm not a big fan of female boxing, so that's not for me. Daniel Lapin, who is 5-0. I've never seen this guy fight before. He's a Ukrainian light heavyweight who's 5-0 with no knockouts. Okay. I guess maybe he's Usyk's fighter. I guess he's in a kind of a, you know, a regular routine come up fight. And you have Ziad Al-Mayouf. He's fighting Jose Alatorre. Never heard of any of these guys. So he's from America, Ziad. And Alatorre is from... He doesn't even have... I mean, look at his box rec profile, man. Jesus Christ. So I'm assuming Ziad here is the prospect. I'm assuming it's Ziad who is the prospect. Like, the, you know... Yeah, I mean, but overall, I mean, that's kind of thrown me. Overall, this card, nothing to write home about in terms of the undercard. It's a really good main event, you know, but the undercard, I mean, I'm somewhat looking forward to Hergovich and Zhang. But honestly, apart from that, I mean, I wouldn't care if I never see any of the other fights. I mean, I'm somewhat intrigued by Jack and Rivera as well, but... Sorry, not Jack and Rivera, Spong and Tabiti, but yeah, it's not a strong card. Not especially considering the news today that this card is going to be $26.95. It's a slight increase on Joshua's previous pay-per-views, which is fair enough. But again, you know, people get upset when people moan about pay-per-view costs. I mean, it's fair to moan, but like, it's okay moaning. I mean, look at the quality. The quality's not going up, so I mean, I think it's a fair criticism. You're raising the pay-per-view price, but the undercard is absolutely pants, you know? So, I don't know, man. I was expecting a bit better, to be honest. I was expecting a bit better. But, that's boxing, you know? That's boxing. I'm sure these guys in the main event are getting paid a lot of money. And, maybe there's not really much money to go around lower down on the card. But we shall see. We shall see. We shall see. But yeah, I mean, share your thoughts below. What do you make of the actual undercard? Not talking about the main event, the undercard. What do you think of this undercard? Share your thoughts below.